The basement door slammed shut above me, and I heard the lock click into place. Complete darkness swallowed me whole. My mother-in-law's heels clicked away across the hardwood floor upstairs, each step echoing like a judge's gavel. "Please!" I screamed, pounding on the door until my fists went numb. "Patricia! Let me out!" Silence. My phone. I reached into my pocket. Me. She'd taken it when she'd shoved me down here. The concrete floor beneath me was ice cold, seeping through my thin cotton dress. November in Connecticut, and the heating vents down here had been shut off months ago. I was trapped, in my own home, by my husband's mother. And Derek wouldn't be back from his business trip to Singapore for another 4 days. Let me back up. My name is Natalie Chen, and 6 months ago, I married Derek Whitmore in what everyone called the wedding of the century. Except his mother, Patricia Whitmore, who wore black to the ceremony and sobbed through the vows like she was attending a funeral. Derek is the CEO of Whitmore Industries, a tech conglomerate his grandfather founded in the 1960s. When we met, I was working as a pediatric nurse at Mount Sinai, pulling double shifts to pay off my student loans. I grew up in a modest apartment in Queens, daughter of Chinese immigrants who ran a small restaurant. Derek's world of private jets, charity galas, and summer homes in the Hamptons might as well have been on another planet. But we fell in love anyway. He saw past the designer labels and trust funds to something real. I saw past his wealth to the man who volunteered at the Children's Hospital on weekends, who remembered my coffee order, who cried when I told him about losing my father to cancer. Patricia saw a gold digger, social climber, an unsuitable match for her precious only son. The signs were there from day one. She accidentally sent the wedding invitations to my family with the wrong date. She told the wedding planner I wanted a cash bar, humiliating my mother in front of 200 guests. She gifted us a multi-million-dollar penthouse for our wedding present, then kept a key and showed up unannounced constantly. "Just checking on things," she'd say, running her finger along surfaces looking for dust, rearranging my kitchen cabinets, replacing my Target dishes with Wedgwood china I was too afraid to use. Derek tried to set boundaries. He really did. But Patricia was a master manipulator. She'd clutch her chest and mention her heart condition whenever he pushed back. She'd bring up his late father, how disappointed he'd be to see Derek abandoning family. She'd cry, and Derek, who'd lost his dad at 15, would crumble. "She's just lonely," he'd say. "Give her time to adjust." 6 months. I'd given her 6 months. And it had only gotten worse. Started 3 days ago. Derek had to fly to Singapore for an emergency board meeting. Whitmore Industries was acquiring a major competitor, and as CEO, he needed to be there personally. "I don't like leaving you alone with her in the house," Derek said as he packed his suitcase. We were staying at the family estate in Greenwich while our penthouse was being renovated. The estate was a sprawling 15,000 square foot mansion on 20 acres. Beautiful and isolating. Patricia lived in the guest house on the property, close enough to drop by whenever she wanted, which was constantly. "I'll be fine," I lied. "It's only 4 days. She's been worse lately." Derek's jaw tightened. Last week she told the housekeeper not to cook any ethnic food, because it makes the house smell. She meant your mother's recipes. "I know. When I get back we're moving out. I don't care if the renovation isn't done. We'll stay at a hotel." He kissed my forehead. 4 days, Nat. Then this ends. 4 days felt like forever. The first day after Derek left, Patricia was overly sweet. She invited me to lunch at the country club, insisted on showing me around the estate's gardens, complimented my dress. I should have known better. Patricia was never nice without a reason. Day 2, the mask started slipping. She criticized the way I arranged flowers in the foyer. Said my laugh was too loud during a phone call with my sister. Mentioned how Derek's ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, came from a proper family, and knew how to run a household like this. Day 3, this morning everything exploded. I'd made breakfast for myself in the main kitchen. Nothing elaborate, just scrambled eggs and toast. But when Patricia walked in and saw me using her Viking range, something inside her snapped. "What do you think you're doing?" I turned, spatula in hand. "Making breakfast. This is not your kitchen." Her voice was ice. "This is the Whitmore family kitchen. You are a guest here." "Patricia, I'm Derek's wife. I live here." "You live here because my son made a catastrophic mistake." She stepped closer, her Chanel perfume overwhelming. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family?" The embarrassment. The whispers at the club. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. "I love Derek. And he loves me. That's all that matters. Love." She laughed, sharp and brittle. "You think love pays for this estate? For the cars? For the lifestyle you've been enjoying? You're a parasite, Natalie. And I'm going to make sure everyone sees it." That's when she grabbed my phone off the counter. "Hey, give that back. You're going to learn your place in this family." She backed toward the basement door. Starting now. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button. We share dramatic tales of justice and vindication 3 times a week. And trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So there I was, locked in the basement, in the dark. My eyes were slowly adjusting, and I could make out shapes now. Old furniture covered in sheets. Stack boxes. The furnace humming in the corner. How long had I been down here? An hour. 2. My watch had a glow function, but Patricia had taken that too, along with my phone. Time felt elastic in the darkness, stretching and contracting. The cold was the worst part. It crept into my bones, made my teeth chatter. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried to think. Derek was halfway around the world. His phone would be off during meetings. Even if I could somehow contact him, he couldn't get back for at least 20 hours, probably longer. The household staff. The housekeeper Maria came 3 times a week. But today was Wednesday. She wouldn't be back until Friday. The gardeners worked outside and never came to the main house. No one knew I was down here. No one would hear me scream. The basement was soundproofed because it also housed Derek's home theater and wine cellar. Patricia had planned this. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a spontaneous act of anger. She'd been waiting for Derek to leave. She'd taken my phone, my watch. She'd locked me in the one room where no one would hear me. What was her endgame? To keep me here until Derek got back. To prove some twisted point. Or something worse. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since last night. Patricia knew that. She'd watched me skip breakfast after our argument. "Think, Natalie," I whispered to myself. "There has to be a way out." I felt along the walls, looking for a light switch. Found one, flicked it. Nothing. She'd cut the power to the basement. Course she had. The stairs. I climbed them carefully in the darkness. Felt along the door. Solid oak, locked from the outside. I threw my shoulder against it. Pain radiated down my arm. The door didn't budge. Windows. The basement had small windows near the ceiling, the kind that let in slivers of daylight. I could see one now, a gray rectangle against the black. Too small to climb through, and probably locked anyway. But maybe I could break it, get someone's attention. I stumbled around in the dark, searching for something to throw. My shin connected with something hard. I bit back a scream. Box. Inside I felt around. Old photo albums. Not helpful. Another box. Christmas decorations. Still useless. Third box. Something metal. Pulled it out. Trophy. Heavy. Perfect. I aimed for the window and threw. The trophy sailed through the darkness and hit the glass with a crack. Not broken but cracked. Threw again. And again. On the 4th throw, the glass shattered. Cold November air rushed in. I screamed through the opening. "Help! Someone help me! I'm trapped in the basement." Silence. The nearest neighbor was half a mile away across the wooded property. No one could hear me. But at least I had air now. And a tiny amount of light. I sank down against the wall and tried not to cry. Hours passed. The rectangle of light from the broken window slowly moved across the floor as the sun shifted. I tried to mark time by it. Noon became afternoon became evening. My throat was raw from screaming. My hands were bloody from trying to pry at the door. I was so thirsty, so hungry. The cold was making it hard to think clearly. Around what I guessed was 6 p.m., I heard footsteps upstairs. Patricia's heels on the hardwood. She was walking directly above me, back and forth, pacing. Then voices. She was on the phone. I pressed my ear against the door, straining to hear. "Yes, officer, I'm very worried about her." Patricia's voice, dripping with false concern. "My daughter-in-law hasn't been herself lately. Very erratic behavior. She left this morning without telling anyone where she was going. No, her phone is going straight to voicemail. My son is overseas on business. He's beside himself with worry. No. She was reporting me missing, making it look like I'd run away. Yes, she's been under a lot of stress. The pressure of marrying into a prominent family. I think she might be having some sort of breakdown. No, I don't want to suggest anything like that, but she has been depressed. I found concerning things in her journal. I didn't keep a journal. She was making this up. Thank you, officer. Yes, please call if you hear anything. I just want her found safely." The footsteps walked away. Door closed. I slumped against the stairs. She was building a narrative. Unstable daughter-in-law. Runaway. Maybe she'd plant evidence. Make it look like I'd left Derek. Or worse, like I'd hurt myself. If Derek came back to find me missing. If the police were already involved with Patricia's story, if I suddenly reappeared claiming she'd locked me in the basement, who would believe me? I was nobody. A nurse from Queens. She was Patricia Whitmore, philanthropist, society maven, pillar of the community. This was checkmate. Derek. I needed to get to Derek. But how? My phone was gone. Even if I escaped the basement, Patricia controlled the entire estate. The moment I appeared, she'd spin another story. Say I'd been hiding. Say I was irrational. She'd call doctors, have me committed before I could explain. I needed proof. Evidence. Something that would make my story undeniable. But I was locked in a basement in the dark with no phone, no camera, no way to document anything. Or was I? I stood up, ignoring my cramping legs, and felt my way to the opposite end of the basement. Derek had mentioned something months ago. When we'd first moved in, he'd given me a tour of the estate. "The basement is Dad's old domain," he'd said. "His workshop, his collections, his private space. Mom hasn't touched it since he died." His workshop. That meant tools. Maybe even a phone line. The estate was old enough to have landlines throughout. I moved carefully through the darkness, hands outstretched. My fingers brushed against a workbench. Tools hanging on a pegboard. Felt along them. Hammers. Screwdrivers. Crowbar. I could use that on the door. But then I felt something else. Cord. Followed it down. Phone. An old rotary phone, the kind from the 1980s, sitting on the edge of the workbench. "Please work. Please work." Picked up the receiver. Dial tone. Oh my God, dial tone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. I tried Derek's cell. Straight to voicemail. He was still in meetings, phone off. Derek's assistant. What was her number? I'd called it 100 times. Think Natalie. Think. Dialed. Rang once. 3 times. Whitmore Industries. Derek Whitmore's office. Jennifer. I nearly sobbed with relief. "It's Natalie. I need you to get a message to Derek. It's an emergency. Mrs. Whitmore. Are you okay? Your mother-in-law called looking for you. She said you'd gone missing." "I'm not missing. I'm locked in the basement. She locked me in. I need Derek to come home now." I'm sorry, could you repeat that? "Patricia locked me in the basement of the Greenwich estate. I've been here for hours. She's trying to make it look like I ran away. Please, Jennifer, I need Derek on the next flight home." Another pause, longer this time. Mrs. Whitmore, that's a very serious accusation. Course. She didn't believe me. Why would she? Sounded insane. I know how it sounds. But I'm telling the truth. Can you just get Derek on the phone? Please. He's in the final negotiation session. His phone is off. I can't interrupt unless it's life or death. This is life or death. My voice cracked. Jennifer, please. You've known Derek for 10 years. You know what kind of person I am. I wouldn't make this up. Silence. Then quietly. Stay on the line. Waited. 5 minutes. In. The dial tone hummed in my ear. Had she hung up? Had she decided I was crazy and called Patricia instead? Then. Natalie. Derek's voice. I burst into tears. Nat, what's going on? Jennifer said something about the basement. Your mother locked me in. After you left, we had a fight and she took my phone and locked me in the basement. Derek, I've been here all day. She's telling people I'm missing. She's building some story that I'm unstable. What? That's insane. Mom would never. She did. I'm calling you from your dad's old workshop phone. It's the only reason I can reach you. Derek, you have to come home. Please. I heard him talking to someone in the background. Then he was back. I'm leaving now. The company plane is being prepped. I'll be there in 14 hours. Nat, are you hurt? I'm okay. Cold. Hungry. But okay. Stay where you are. Don't try to break out. Don't confront her. Just stay on the phone with me until the battery dies and then wait. I'm coming. Okay. I was crying so hard I could barely speak. I'm so sorry. I should have told you how bad it was getting. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. His voice was steel now. 14 hours, Nat. Then this ends. We stayed on the phone for 3 hours until the ancient landline finally went dead. By then it was past midnight. I huddled in Derek's father's old armchair, wrapped in a musty blanket I'd found in a storage box. 14 hours. I could survive 14 hours. But Patricia didn't know I'd reached Derek, which meant she was still executing her plan. What would she do next? I got my answer around 2 a.m. when I heard her upstairs again. More phone calls. I pressed my ear against the ceiling, trying to hear. Yes, Dr. Reeves. I appreciate you coming on such short notice. My daughter-in-law has been having episodes. Paranoid delusions. Erratic behavior. I'm worried she might harm herself or others. When my son arrives home, I'd like you to evaluate her. Possibly a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Just until we can get her stabilized. My blood ran cold. She was arranging to have me committed. Once I was in a psychiatric facility, it would be her word against mine. She could keep me there for days, weeks even. By the time I got out, if I got out, her story would be set in stone. Had to get out. Derek was still 12 hours away. Too long. Crowbar. I'd found it earlier. I grabbed it now and climbed the stairs. The door was solid oak, but the frame might be weaker. I wedged the crowbar into the gap and threw my whole weight against it. The wood splintered. Not much, but enough to give me hope. I worked at it for an hour. Prying. Pushing. Splinters embedded in my palms. Sweat dripping down my back despite the cold. Finally, with a crack like a gunshot, the frame gave way. The door swung open. I was free. The house was dark and silent. What time was it now? 3 a.m. 4. Patricia would be asleep in the guest house. The main house was empty. Could run. Take one of the cars. Drive to the police station. But Patricia had already filed a missing person report. I'd show up disheveled, wild-eyed, claiming I'd been locked in a basement. She'd counter with her story about my mental state. She had a doctor standing by to back her up. I needed evidence. Turn on those post notifications so you don't miss the conclusion of this story. What Natalie discovers next will change everything. I crept upstairs to Derek's home office. His computer was password protected, but I knew the password. His father's birthday. I logged in and went straight to the security system. The estate had cameras everywhere. Dozens of them, all feeding to a central server. Derek had installed them years ago after a break-in attempt, including one in the kitchen. My hands flew across the keyboard. I pulled up yesterday's footage. 9:47 a.m. Patricia and I in the kitchen. You could see the whole argument. Her grabbing my phone. Her backing me toward the basement door. Then her opening the door and shoving me through. Locking it. Pocketing the key. Crystal clear. Time-stamped. Undeniable. I downloaded the file to a thumb drive. Then I kept searching. Found footage from today. Patricia on her phone reporting me missing. Patricia meeting with someone in a suit, a doctor, discussing treatment options for her troubled daughter-in-law. All of it. All the evidence I needed. But I didn't stop there. I dug deeper into the security archives. Months of footage. And I found things that made my skin crawl. Patricia tampering with my car's brake line in September. Thank God I'd noticed the car pulling wrong and took it to a mechanic before something terrible happened. Patricia slipping something into my coffee in October. Pills of some kind. I'd felt sick all day after drinking it, thought I had food poisoning. Patricia going through my personal belongings, photographing my passport, my social security card. Why? Identity theft. Framing me for something. This wasn't just a controlling mother-in-law. This was calculated. Methodical. She'd been trying to hurt me, frame me, or remove me from Derek's life for months. I downloaded everything. Then I sent copies to my email, to Derek's email, to Jennifer at his office. Backups upon backups. The sky outside was starting to lighten. Derek would land in about 6 hours. I should have left then. Should have driven to a hotel and waited for him. But I was angry now. Furious. This woman had terrorized me for months. She'd locked me in a basement. She'd tried to have me committed. She needed to face what she'd done. I walked to the guest house. The sun was just peeking over the horizon, painting the sky pink and gold. Beautiful. Ironic. I didn't knock. I walked right in. Patricia's guest house was a mirror of the main house's elegance. All cream carpets and antique furniture. She was in the kitchen making coffee. She turned when she heard me and actually gasped. Actual shock on her usually controlled face. Natalie, where have you been? Everyone's been so worried. Save it. I held up the thumb drive. Security footage. All of it. The basement. The phone calls. Everything you've been doing for months. The color drained from her face. Then, impressively, she recovered. Drew herself up. I don't know what you think you saw, but you're clearly not well. You've been missing for nearly 24 hours. You're confused. Exhausted. Let me call Dr. Reeves. Derek is on his way home. He'll be here in 6 hours. And when he arrives, I'm showing him everything. The footage of you locking me in the basement. The footage of you tampering with my car. The footage of you drugging my coffee. All of it. That's preposterous. Derek will never believe such absurd accusations. He already knows. I called him from the basement. That old landline in his father's workshop still works. Surprise. Now her composure cracked. Her hands gripped the counter. You called Derek 14 hours ago. He left Singapore immediately. I stepped closer. It's over, Patricia. Whatever you thought you were going to accomplish, it's done. Derek knows what you did. He's seen the evidence. And he's furious. He's my son. My blood. You're just some girl he'll eventually tire of. I'm his wife. The woman he chose. And you've spent 6 months proving exactly why we need to stay far away from you. She moved so fast I barely saw it. Her hand shot out and grabbed a knife from the block on the counter. A carving knife, 8 inches of gleaming steel. You've ruined everything, she hissed. I spent 30 years building this family's reputation. I sacrificed everything to maintain our status. And you think you can just waltz in and destroy it all? I backed away slowly. Patricia put the knife down. Derek will forgive me. He always forgives me. I'm his mother. But you, she advanced. You're the problem. You've always been the problem. If you were just gone, everything would go back to normal. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. She was between me and the door now. An accident. That's what it will be. You broke out of the basement in an unstable state. Came at me. I defended myself. Who do you think the police will believe? A respected widow defending herself? Or a dead girl with a history of erratic behavior? She'd really lost it. Completely. The mask had come off, and underneath was something cold and terrible. The cameras, I said quietly. The guest house has cameras too. Everything you're saying and doing right now is being recorded. She faltered. Looked up at the corner where a security camera's red light blinked steadily. That second of distraction was all I needed. I grabbed a heavy crystal vase from the side table and threw it at her. She ducked, and I bolted for the door. Made it outside. Ran across the lawn toward the main house. Behind me I heard Patricia screaming. Stop. Come back here. I didn't stop. Didn't look back. Just ran. I made it to the main house and locked every door. Called 911. Explained there was a woman with a knife threatening me. Gave the address. They said units were on the way. Then I called Derek. He answered on the first ring. Nat. What's happening? I just landed. I'm 30 minutes out. She pulled a knife on me. Got out. Police are coming. What? Nat, are you safe? I'm locked in the house. She's outside. I looked through the window. Patricia was pacing on the lawn, still holding the knife. Derek, I think she's having a breakdown. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone except the police. I'm coming. 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. But finally I heard sirens. 2 police cars pulled up the drive. Officers got out, approached Patricia carefully. She dropped the knife. Started crying. Clutching her chest. The performance was Oscar-worthy. Officers, thank God you're here. My daughter-in-law, she's been missing. And now she's barricaded herself inside. She's not well. She needs help. But the officers had gotten my call. They knew I'd reported a woman with a knife. They were careful, professional. One stayed with Patricia while the other came to the door. Mrs. Whitmore. Natalie Whitmore. That's me. Open the door. I have evidence. Video evidence of everything. 10 minutes later, Derek's car screeched up the driveway. He was out before it fully stopped, running toward me. Nat! I fell into his arms and finally let myself fall apart. Sobbed into his chest while he held me. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I'm so sorry. The officers wanted statements. I showed them everything. The security footage. The basement. My bloody hands from trying to break through the door. The splintered door frame. Patricia tried to maintain her story. But the evidence was overwhelming. They arrested her. Assault. False imprisonment. Attempted murder based on the knife incident that was caught on the guest house cameras. As they put her in the police car, she looked at Derek. Really looked at him. And for just a second, I saw something like regret cross her face. Derek, please. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. I'm your mother. Derek's jaw was tight. You locked my wife in a basement. You terrorized her. You tried to kill her. His voice broke. You're not the mother I thought I knew. He turned away as they drove her off. We're living in the renovated penthouse now. Haven't been back to the Greenwich estate since that day. Derek's putting it on the market. Patricia was charged with multiple felonies. Her lawyer is trying to arrange a plea deal. Psychiatric evaluation. Supervised probation. Derek won't visit her. He says maybe someday but not now. Not yet. The hardest part has been watching him grieve. Because that's what he's doing. Grieving the loss of who he thought his mother was. Coming to terms with the reality of what she'd become. I knew she could be difficult, he told me last week. I knew she didn't approve of our marriage. But I never thought she was capable of something like this. Never. She hid it well, I said. From everyone. We're in therapy together, working through the trauma, learning to trust again. It's a process. But here's the thing, the crazy thing. Last week I got a letter from Patricia, forwarded through her lawyer. I almost threw it away without reading it. But I didn't. I read it. It wasn't an apology. Not exactly. But it was an explanation. How she'd lost her husband young. How she'd poured everything into raising Derek, into maintaining the family name. How she'd seen me as a threat to everything she'd built. How over the months, watching Derek pull away from her and toward me, something inside her had broken. I convinced myself I was protecting him, she wrote. Protecting our family. I didn't see that I was destroying it. She's getting treatment now. Real psychiatric treatment. The evaluation showed personality disorders she'd likely had for decades, exacerbated by grief and isolation after her husband's death. It doesn't excuse what she did. Nothing excuses locking someone in a basement. Nothing excuses pulling a knife on them. But it helps somehow to know she was sick. That it wasn't purely malice. That the woman Derek loved as a child really did exist once, before illness and trauma twisted her into something unrecognizable. Derek hasn't read the letter. I told him about it, but he's not ready. Maybe he never will be. Me. I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. The experience taught me something important. I spent 6 months trying to win Patricia's approval. Trying to prove I was good enough for her son. Swallowing her insults. Walking on eggshells. Never again. I know my worth now. I don't need anyone's permission to exist in the space I occupy. And Derek sees it too. He's different now. More protective, yes. But also more appreciative. He doesn't take for granted that I'll just endure things because I love him. Last week, we attended a charity gala. One of Derek's mother's old society friends made a snide comment about that unfortunate business with Patricia. Derek shut it down immediately. My mother assaulted my wife. There's nothing unfortunate about facing consequences for crimes. If you have a problem with that, we can leave. We didn't have to leave. The woman apologized. It's moments like that, when I see Derek standing up for me without hesitation, that I remember why I fell in love with him. Not for his money or his status, but for the man who believes in protecting the people he loves. Even when it means standing against his own mother. People ask me sometimes if I regret marrying Derek. If I wish I'd walked away when I saw how Patricia was treating me. The answer is no. Absolutely not. Yes, I went through hell. Yes, I have nightmares sometimes about being locked in that basement. Yes, there are moments when I hear footsteps overhead and my heart races before I remember I'm safe now. But I also learned something valuable. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That I can survive things I never imagined surviving. That when pushed to the edge, I'll fight back. I learned that Derek is the partner I always believed he was. When it mattered most, when he had to choose between his mother and his wife, he chose right. Not everyone would. And I learned that sometimes the people who seem to have everything together are the ones falling apart inside. Patricia Whitmore looked perfect from the outside. Elegant, poised, respected. Inside she was crumbling. And instead of getting help, she lashed out. It's a lesson I carry with me now in my work. I went back to nursing, but I switched to psychiatric nursing. I work with patients who remind me of Patricia. People whose mental illness makes them do terrible things they wouldn't do if they were well. Doesn't excuse the harm they cause. But it helps me understand it. And understanding is the first step toward healing, both for the victims and, sometimes, for the people who hurt them. As for Derek and me, we're good. Better than good. We just found out I'm pregnant. A girl. We're naming her Grace. And no, before you ask, Patricia doesn't know yet. She's still in treatment. Still facing charges. Whether she'll ever meet her granddaughter depends on a lot of factors, most of which are years away from being decided. But I do think about it sometimes. About whether Grace will ever know her grandmother. About whether Patricia can ever truly heal. Hope she can. Not for her sake, but for Derek's. He deserves to have a mother who's healthy and whole. And Grace deserves to have a grandmother who can love her without trying to control or manipulate her. But if that's not possible, then Grace will grow up surrounded by the family that matters. My family, who flew from Queens to be with us through the aftermath. Derek's father's siblings, who've embraced me completely. The chosen family we're building together. Because here's what I learned in that cold, dark basement. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who believes you, who stands with you when everything falls apart. Derek showed up. He believed me. He stood with me. That's family. That's love. And that's worth fighting for. The day Grace was born, Derek cried. Held his daughter and cried tears of joy and relief and the weight of everything we'd been through. She's perfect, he whispered. Absolutely perfect. She was. 10 fingers. 10 toes. A head full of dark hair like mine. Derek's green eyes. My mother was there. My sister. Derek's aunts and uncles. The room was full of love. There was one person notably absent. But we didn't talk about that. Not on that day. That day was for celebrating new life, new beginnings. But 2 weeks after we brought Grace home, Derek got a call from Patricia's lawyer. She'd completed her inpatient treatment program. She was being released to a supervised living facility. And she wanted to write Derek a letter. He said yes. I think he surprised himself by saying yes. The letter arrived 3 days later. I watched him read it. Saw the emotions play across his face. Anger, sadness, and maybe the smallest hint of hope. She says she understands if I never want to see her again, he told me. She says she doesn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know that she's getting help. Real help. And that she's sorry for the pain she caused. Do you believe her? Yes. I don't know. He looked down at Grace, asleep in my arms. But I think I want to. Eventually. Eventually is okay, I said. There's no rush. There isn't. Healing takes time. Trust, once broken, takes even longer to repair. Maybe Patricia and Derek will rebuild their relationship someday. Maybe they won't. But either way, we're okay. Our little family of 3, soon to expand when my mother moves in to help with the baby. We're building something new. Something healthy. Something based on honesty and respect and actual love. Not control disguised as love. And if Grace ever asks why she doesn't see her grandmother, we'll tell her the truth. Age appropriately, but the truth. We'll tell her that sometimes people get sick in ways that make them hurt others. That loving someone doesn't mean accepting abuse. That it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. Especially with family. Because that's the real lesson here. Love isn't enough on its own. Love has to come with respect. With trust. With a willingness to see and acknowledge when you've done wrong. Patricia loved Derek. Believe that. But she loved him the wrong way. Possessively. Obsessively. She loved him so much that she couldn't see past her own fear of losing him to the reality that she was pushing him away. And by the time she realized what she was doing, it was too late. But it's not too late for us. Derek and I, Grace. The family we're creating together. We're going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to thrive. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share your own stories of family drama and overcoming adversity in the comments below. You're not alone in facing difficult family dynamics. And your story might help someone else who's struggling. Remember, you deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to be safe. And you deserve to be loved in ways that lift you up, not tear you down. Until next time, this is Crazy Stories Library, reminding you that your story matters. And sometimes, the craziest stories are the ones where we find the strength to save ourselves.